I wasn't sure I was going to do this video at first. This is the Americana tag. I struggle with it a little bit and just like, what is Americana? But I did find an interesting time going through the records and the questions, and made some connections that I wouldn't have made before, and enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed Sam St. John. He's this person that started this whole thread, and then Shamrock'n Records too. Both videos I was just writing furiously down notes and titles of records to check out, some of which I'd never heard of and some I had heard of that I'd just forgotten about. So very, very cool to hear that. I recommend both of those videos, as well as other people that have jumped on this thread as well. The first question is favorite Americana artist. And yeah, I had to go with Drive-By Truckers because they sing about America. They're not afraid to sing about America. They sing about this country, what's going on with this country. They always have. And I find their work fascinating. They have, an Americana sound to them. Also draw heavily on just rock and roll, southern rock, soul. Muscle Shoals, Alabama is a huge influence on them. They grew up right around Muscle Shoals. So yeah, just a great, great band. Always interesting. This record was the first one they did after having Isbell on, Jason Isbell, for 3 records. Double record, and I think one of their finest. Shauna Tucker, who is Isbell's ex-wife, she plays bass in the band at the time, and she also handles lead vocals for the first time on 3 tracks. But yes, Drive-By Truckers are my favorite Americana band. Their catalog is brilliant, and anybody that needs an extra nudge to check them out, this one might be a good record to start with. Let's see, show an album with a banjo on the cover. I admit I don't really, if there's a banjo on a cover of an album, I'm definitely not gonna buy it without hearing it. And I'm not a fan of the fiddle either. If there's too much fiddle on something, that usually, not the cover, but just in general, that can be a real turnoff too. So there's things that I guess could be called Americana that, if not done right and not done in a way that supports the song, I can find really annoying. So I picked an album because I wanted to show it that has a microphone on the cover. This is the first Sunvolt record. Yeah, great record. Turned me on to them. Really turned me on to Uncle Tupelo at the same time. This was sort of the first record that demanded to be paid attention to after Uncle Tupelo broke up. I heard AM, but it just seemed like an okay alt country record by Wilco. This record warranted some obsessing over, and then of course soon after this we got Being There by Wilco, which really changed things for them too. A record that, let's see, what's the next one? A great harmony record. This would have to go to the Jayhawks, Tomorrow the Green Grass. I love that band, especially that period of Hollywood Town Hall and this record, Tomorrow the Green Grass. The song Blue, when I think of harmonies, that one just starts playing in my head. And, I really liked the band in that era. I think the harmonies weren't really as prominent when it started to be a Gary Loris thing. So definitely, love this period of the band. The next question, show a album by your favorite Americana female artist. This artist is probably number 1 for me, and this is Lucinda Williams. I absolutely love this record. It's one of my favorite records of all time. It is in my top 10. So good. Just an incredible record. I'm glad she spent her time on it. She got a lot of flack for doing so. It is a absolutely brilliant record, and I think would probably be at the top of any kind of critics list for Americana records, definitely, that came out in the last 20, 30 years. Yeah, highly recommend it. Show your favorite acoustic cover song. The one that came to mind is First Aid Kit and their cover of Simon & Garfunkel's America. It makes me like tear up when I hear it. It is a really powerful song. I was lucky to see them at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass in San Francisco a few years back, and they performed that song. It was just absolutely gorgeous. Name an Americana artist you'd like to see put out a new album in 2024. Well, I think we are long overdue for an artist that would be my probably second to Lucinda for favorite female Americana artist. And this is Nico Case. This is her last record. This is Hell On. And this was back in 2018. Now, she does take some time between records. I mean, she's never been a prolific artist with her own work. I mean, New Pornographers would have a couple records that were sort of back to back, but Nico, you always have to take your time. But it seems like it's been longer than normal. So, really hoping she has something in store. I wouldn't doubt it one bit. She did kind of a reissuing of a lot of her material and a greatest hits record that she issued on vinyl last year, I think, or the year before. So it just seems like maybe she's getting ready to do something. Next question is your favorite Americana album from last year. Now, he's more prolific than Nico Case, but he still takes a few years between records. This is Jason Isbell, probably on plenty of people's lists. Weather Vanes, I think it's his best record since Southeastern. Really, really strong record, strong material, very much a band record, but also has some awesome, amazing acoustic songs. If you want to listen to a highlight off of this, I would suggest listening to Cast Iron Skillet. I don't know that songwriting gets any better than that. Next up, we have favorite Beatles acoustic song. For me, it goes to You Gotta Hide Your Love Away off of Help. Absolutely love this song, always have. And I actually, when I was in Thailand a few years back, heard a group of musicians playing acoustic instruments and covering Beatles songs. And this was the highlight for me. And it just sounded so cool to be in another country hearing heavy Thai accents and have a universal music like the Beatles being covered. Absolutely loved it. Next up, we have Show an Album with a Heartbreaking Ballad. Lots of heartbreaking ballads in this genre, but I thought of Vic Chestnut because I love Vic Chestnut, and this album just kind of jumped out at me. This doesn't have the original cover, which I don't know if it was a rights issue or what that they had on CD. I prefer the original, but this is a great Vic Chestnut album. It's a little less depressing. They're kind of having fun, but yet, yes, it does have a heartbreaking ballad on it. It's got great songs like Kick My Ass and Supernatural, and the song When I Ran Off and Left Her. When I ran off and left her, she wasn't holding a baby. She was holding a bottle and a big grudge against me. Vic Chestnut, Drunk. What do we have next? We have a song about drinking from an Americana artist. Also not too hard to find, but the one that came to mind for me was Margo Price's Hurtin' on the Bottle. This is her first record. It's probably my favorite. Absolutely love the first song on it. And Hurtin' on the Bottle's got some airplay and would definitely be played, I think, at pretty much any show you would see by Margo Price. But the song behind me is called Midwest Farmer's Daughter. Next up, show an illustrated Americana album cover. Drive-By Truckers would be a great example too, but for this one, I went with Adrienne Lenker from Big Thief. This is an album came out a couple years ago. Solo record came out before Dragon New Mountain, I Believe in You, the last really brilliant Big Thief record. This was her during the pandemic, like going to a log cabin, like literally, and just with rudimentary equipment recording a record. One record is songs, the other one is instrumentals, and it's definitely a really great kind of Sunday morning record. But songs and instrumentals by Adrienne Lenker. Her grandmother painted this cover, this illustrated cover. Next up, we have an Americana supergroup. I was thinking of like Monsters of Folk, and then the Highwaywomen, and then the Highwaymen. But going through my record collection, I was like, of course, you can't go wrong with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Actually, you can. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. You go less wrong with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. You can definitely go wrong with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. But not wrong in those first few albums for sure, including this double record, Four-Way Streets. The next record, sorry, I've got this cough. I keep cutting this video because I have this cough and my voice keeps kind of going. But I'm really not that sick. It's just this lingering cough. I think a lot of people have weird stuff like that going on right now. An Americana artist you never got to see live. This one kind of hurts. Why? Because I was there. I was at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass probably twice at least when John Prine played. Now, why didn't I go see John Prine? Well, because there were like literally 100 different bands playing, and there was somebody that I wanted to see more. I did not get into John Prine until recently, honestly. I respected him as a songwriter. Thought he was a little too folky for me, and then one day, like, everything clicked. His new album, actually, his last album, kind of did it for me, as well as that Prime compilation. And then it just was like, okay, yeah, I want more. And now, of course, I love John Prine. And I love that, actually, when it happens, when you get into something kind of later and you've got plenty to discover. It gets rarer and rarer, of course, as you get older. But yeah, I definitely missed seeing John Prine live. And by the time I got into him, he was still alive, but he didn't have much time left, unfortunately. An Americana artist you would like to see live, but you haven't. I got kind of turned on to Orville Peck recently. Really interesting guy. I mean, he wears his face mask. His influences are all over the place. I mean, you hear Smiths in it, then you also hear kind of alt country stuff. If you had to slap a label on him, I suppose he's Americana. A little bit, more Western, of course. I mean, I guess that is Americana. I don't know. What is Americana? I get frustrated on that sometimes. But this is a really good artist and a really good record. I like this one, Pony, better than the follow-up Bronco. I think this is just amazing to think that this guy pretty much is doing everything. And brilliant first record. Really kind of looking forward to see what he does next. Next up, we have Favorite Americana Duet. This one, I'm going to go with 3 records. 3 records of duets, essentially. These are 3 records by Isabel Campbell and Mark Lanigan. 2 unlikely pairings, as unlikely as Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood was, which these records are kind of a nod to. Full of great duets, his baritone, her voice together. Really create something special. And yeah, these records are definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have the Americana artist you've seen the most live. I think this would have to go to Mr. Jeff Tweedy and Wilco. I started seeing them live on the first record. I saw them on AM. I saw them on, I think, pretty much every record tour since then. I may have missed one. Not quite as into them, as rabidly into them now as I was back in like 96, 97, 98, 99. 2000, 2001, like that whole era. And I saw them so many times. At the time I lived in Minneapolis, they came through there a lot. It would seem like their second home other than Chicago. And I saw Tweedy several times solo too. I was able to see him a few times in San Francisco, and also the Tweedy Band when they came and played Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. I saw them. But yeah, numerous times I've seen Wilco. And yeah, they're a great band. There's a reason why people keep coming back to see them live. Great live band. So next we have 5 lesser known Americana artists. A lot of these are artists I just talked about, like Adrienne Lenker, at least her solo stuff. Vic Chestnut for sure. Orville Peck meets that criteria, I think. And Scud Mountain Boys, who I talked about in my last video, precursor to Joe Pernice's band, Pernice Brothers. Definitely worth checking out, especially their album Massachusetts. And I want to highlight one more. My friend Joe Fahey is a singer-songwriter, and this album I absolutely love by him. It's Somnambulist Chaser, and it definitely fits that Americana tag. It's quite gorgeous. He's got a lot of humorous lyrics too, but this album just, I don't know, hits me in all the right places. He also happens to be a favorite of Robert Christgau, and that's kind of hard to say that you're a favorite of Robert Christgau's. Robert Christgau put his record in the best records of a couple years ago for his album that came after this that was called February on Ice. But this is my favorite, and I think that one that definitely fits Americana category. Next up, show the first Americana album you owned. Again, it's how you define Americana, but I think this one definitely, I had this one soon after it came out. Cowboy Junkies, Trinity Session fits that criteria, I think, as well. All recorded live in a church, freezing cold apparently. Do a brilliant cover of Sweet Jane by Velvet Underground, and just a great album all the way through. Lots of covers of old blues artists and singer-songwriters, and legendary songs like they do a Hank Williams cover. But if you're not familiar with Cowboy Junkies, this is a hell of a way to start. I think it's their best record, and it's their second one, I think, the Trinity Session. So now I get to challenge a person behind the channel to hop on the thread. Well, as of this recording, there's been numerous edits to, because I keep coughing and it's been kind of nuts. As of the start of this recording, the Long Cut had not done this yet, and he is super into Americana. So I really look forward to what he does, and I'm challenging him to pick this up and do this next. So I look forward to that. I'm sure he will at some point. So that's what I have. These are the records, Americana. I hope you enjoy this.